Hello, fellow crafters. I'm Lisa Fulford. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Creative Coach Lisa. Here is where I share ideas and techniques for cards, boxes, bags, and all things crafty. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day and sharing it with me. We're going to make an adorable thank you card with a die-cut edge. And we will be using the Festive and Bright Bundle, and it's on page 64 of the mini catalog, the July to December 2021 catalog. And the stamp set comes with 9 photopolymer stamps, and then you get the dice so that you can either cut a edge or you can cut it out entirely. Okay. And then we're also going to bring in the Ornate Thanks stamp set. And this is going to be for our sentiment for the thanks. And that's in the annual catalog. And it's on page 77. Right here. We're going to use the thanks. And this stamp set is $18 and it's in the annual catalog. Okay. We will also be using the Tasteful Texture 3D embossing folder for a little bit of embossing. And that's in the annual catalog as well. So we'll get started. We're going to use the image with the apples and the thanks from the Ornate Thanks. Okay, so we will get started with our card pieces. The first piece that we need is a 5.5 by 4 1/4 Bumblebee. We need a piece of real red, and it's 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then we have another piece of real red that's 4 inches by 3 3/4. We have basic white, which is 5 inches by 3 3/4. And then we have a piece that is 3.5 inches by 2 1/4. And then I have 2 of these, just in case I make a mistake. And it is about a 5/8 inch wide by 3.5 inch long. Just something large enough for your sentiment that you're going to use. So I'll use that. And then we're going to use 5 inches by 3 3/4 piece of DSP. And that is in the July to December mini catalog. And it is on page 57, and it's the Heartwarming Hugs 12 by 12 paper, and it's a returning fave. Okay, so I'm going to set these pieces off here to the side and bring in our piece of cardstock. That's the basic white, and hopefully I will only need one of those. I'm going to bring in a piece of scratch paper. We will be using Memento ink, and I'm going to ink up the thanks. And before I stamp this, I'm going to stand up so that I can get a different angle. There we go. I'm going to try this one here just in case, and I'll pick which one I like best. This one here is kind of at the bottom. It's not very... There we go. Usually you would use a piercing mat to do your stamping, but underneath my blotter paper I have a piercing type mat that it's the equivalent of this, but it's for a larger surface that I have here where I do my stamping. And so I use the other ones for when I go to classes. So I'm going to set this off to the side. I think I'll use this one. I'm going to find my other stamp. I'm going to set this here. Now what I'm going to do for it, I'm going to take my stamp and put it stamp side up, ink up my stamp like this. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I'm not going to use it all. Okay. Put my lid on my ink. Then I'm going to bring this in and stamp it towards the edge. And then lift. That looks pretty good. I'm going to clean my stamps. All right. So now then I need to bring in my Stampin Blends and the colors that we are going to use. I'm going to keep this under there because sometimes it bleeds through the cardstock. The colors that we're going to use is light real red and the light crumb cake, and I'm going to mix the two of those instead of use the light and dark of the real red. We're using light or dark so saffron, light mango melody, light and dark granny apple, and then the color lifter. So basically I'm just going to go through here with the cherry cobbler, and I'm going to just kind of on some of the apples I'm going to just add the edge, and then I will blend it out. So I'm just kind of basically giving it where there would be a shadow. And then I'm going to blend that out. Okay, so just kind of like that. And then I'm going to come in with the Mango Melody, and I'm going to make it where it's red and yellow apples. They wouldn't probably both be on the same tree, but you know, it's crafting. I can make it whatever I want. So I'm using the So Saffron to blend it out. There we go. All right, so the dark granny apple green, I'm going to bring this in, and I'm just going to follow the lines of the stems. And as I'm going, I'm just going to swipe a little bit in the center of the leaves. I don't want to put a lot on the leaves, but I'm going to fill in the whole stem with the dark. There's no blending on these stems. There's not that much. Like, there's not that big of an area, so just filling it in works just fine. You wouldn't notice it being blended, you know, even if you did try. So, okay. We're almost finished here. There we go. There we go. Now then I'm going to come in with the light, and I'm going to blend out those leaves. When you add the little bit of the dark, it just gives it a little bit more contrast and more interest. And you don't have to fill it all the way in. You just brush a couple brush strokes over the different leaves. These are very forgiving. I like that about the Stampin' Blends. They do bleed through the cardstock, which there's nothing that I can do about that. But here we go. Almost done. There we go. And there we go. All right, so I will set these off to the side. Now it's time to bring in the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and it's going to take up the full frame of the camera. So I'm going to set this right here for now. I'm going to take this die cut and figure out about where it will cut this out. So I think about right there. That looks about right. And the Post-it tape, I'm going to add it here. And I'm going to add it down here at this end, so that whenever I put it onto the plate, it's already in place. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my plate 1, the shim number 2, a plate 3, put my cardstock down right here. Let's see, maybe that way to be better. Then I'm going to put my next plate on top, line them up, and then send them through. And it might shake the camera a little bit. All right, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, take my tape off, and there you have a nice die cut edge. I tried in the past to die cut it first and then stamp it, and it doesn't work quite as well. I mean, you can do that, but I like it better to stamp it, die cut it, and then that way you can line up the die cut. It's easier to line up the die cut than it is to line up the stamp. Okay, so we'll bring my pieces back in here. All right, so now that I want to take my piece of, oh, we need to bring that back in here. Bring this back in. And move my cardstocks out of the way. All right, so we have this embossing folder. And there went my stamps. I mean my markers. Okay, so if we're going to do an embossing folder, we need number 1 and then 3 and 3. This is not the dynamic one, I don't believe. So trying to get the folder open. I'm having difficulty. There we go. All right, so where did that piece go that I just took? Just die cut it. Where did it go? Okay, here it is. Okay, so I want to put the piece of cardstock into the embossing folder. And I want to put it up close to where the embossing will be near the edge of the stamping. I want to put it down on my plate number 3 and then add my second plate 3 on top and then run this through. Maybe. I do believe I need it. Maybe it is the dynamic one. So instead of the 2 of the clear plates, let's try this and plate number 4 and see if that works. Yes, there. Okay. I'll close this up. I think I'm finished with it now. there we go. Doesn't that look nice? Okay, so basically what I want to do now is, I haven't scored it, but I'm going to fold this over and bring the edge that I have die cut to line up the side edges and bring it to about right there, and then crease. If I use the bone folder, it'll knock those out, but if you score it beforehand, you don't know exactly where. And then when you put it through and do the embossing on it, you lose your score line anyway. All right, so we'll set this off to the side. Okay, so we'll bring in our pieces here. I'm going to use my Stampin Seal Plus. I want to add the red cardstock to the Bumblebee. Just want to have a nice border all the way around. So I try to line the top, the bottom, and the right side. When I get pretty much lined up there, I drop it, and so then I have a nice even border around it. Then I'm going to bring in, do I want this side or do I want this side? I think I'm going to do this side. No? Yeah, I'm going to do this side. Okay. So I'm going to add that right here. Line up the edges again. Like that. Okay, now I need to bring in my piece of red cardstock. I'm going to add Stampin' Seal to the back, and I'm going to do a fairly long swipes of it, even though it's a good sealant, because this is embossed. And I want to line this up. Like that. So it's going to open like this. I want to add this to the inside. Like this. And if this bothered you, you could cut another, like, measure this and cut a piece. Like, go ahead and cut it out and then cut it to the measurement so that you could overlay that. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so then I want to add Stampin' Seal to the back of this. Try to line that up. It's hard to do when you're not over the top of it. There, that looked pretty good. And then my thanks, I want my scissors and just going to cut it at an angle. If you cut it at an angle, then there's nothing to, you know, well, you didn't get it even or things like that. So if I do it like this, then it's not a problem. I'm going to find my dimensionals. Well, they're stuck on something. There we go. I'm going to add those to the back of my thanks. my thanks right up about, maybe go a little higher. About like that. Okay, so now then I want to bring in my Bumblebee gingham ribbon. And I want to bring this over. You need it to be flat under here, like that. And then I want to crisscross, come down to the end down this way. Sorry about that. It's a notification. Use my tweezers, whoops, to hold that in place. My scissors to trim this off. Now, instead of tying a bow, I want to make a nice knot that will lay flat. Take my, just like that, and just trim the edges like that. And then you have a nice little fall die cut edge thank you card, and it's a fun fold because it opens this way. You can sign a sentiment in here, you could stamp a sentiment and then just sign it to the person, or you could sign on the back of here. So there you go. There is our card. It's a nice little festive fall card, and I want to thank you for joining me today and watching me make this card. And I hope you gathered some supplies and crafted along with me. Thank you very much and have a good day.